So when people are walking around on the planet saying, oh, I know myself, and then I go in as a psychic and I see what's really in there, and I tell them, no, I know me better than you know me. No, you don't. You have no idea what's going on in that 95% of your mind.
Welcome back to Enthusiastically Spiritual. I'm Teresa. Being an enthusiastically spiritual is really about showing up for yourself and shining your authentic light. What this looks like is unique to each person, but as a soul in a physical body, this can require some work on the inside. How this inner work shows up is also unique to each person. My guest today is here to share his enthusiastically authentic self and share with us a secret that may be holding you back. His name is Vincent Genna, and he is known as a tell it like it is, truly authentic psychic therapist and spiritual teacher who uses his extraordinary psychic abilities to help clients clear unconscious blocks and fulfill their purpose. As a psychic therapist, Vincent uses his more than 39 years of training, research, and experience in the metaphysical, psychological, and spiritual fields to dive deep into your psyche to release unconscious blockages, resistances, and self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors so you can fulfill the life of your dreams. He shares his insights in his new book, The Secret That's Holding You Back. Welcome, Vincent.
Oh my gosh, Teresa, thank you for having me. And it's so funny. Every time I hear my intro now, and I do so many different podcasts and radio shows, it keeps reminding me how old I am. Oh my gosh, 39 years. I got to change it soon to 40. But I don't mind. I don't mind at all.
Well, hey, let's be authentic about it, right? I mean, Absolutely. I say for myself, because I'm in my mid-50s, that, wisdom, I'm wiser than hell as before. I'm have some years behind me, and that's one way to look at it. Like what you put together is like, hello, here I am, and I'm in my whatever it is, right, Vincent?
That's right, absolutely. And just so that you know, and so your listeners know, there was a scientific news article that recently came out that they discovered that the Earth is rotating a minute and few seconds faster than it has ever rotated before. So in actuality, the days are going by faster. They are going to have to add something to the calendar, which means every time we celebrate a birthday, it's actually sooner than a whole year. So we are younger than our age says. So
I love it.
About that.
I love it so much. That works for me, Vincent.
Good. Same here.
Well, I'd love for you to share a little about who you are and how you came into writing this amazing book, The Secret That's Holding You Back. And let's chat about Vincent.
Okay. All right. To give the real short version of it, I was 28 years old, and a friend of mine who used to be an enemy of mine, who caused all my torment in school, but at our 10-year high school reunion became a really close friend. Well, it was his life that was falling apart, and I didn't know how to help him because I was not a therapist, a counselor, anything like that, a psychic, a medium, and I wasn't even a small. I was a singer, actor, and dancer, a professional singer, actor, and dancer. That's all I wanted to do. So when his life was falling apart and he wasn't sharing that with anybody, he was all by himself with it, I needed to be able to help him. I wanted so desperately to help him. And it was a cry out to God. I'll admit it. I was driving in the car on the way home from spending a weekend with him, my wife and I just was crying in tears. And I was like, please, you've got to give me the ability, something to be able to help him and others like him, that they're being tormented or their hearts are broken for some reason. Give me the ability to help. And within a week, that was a Steven Spielberg, definitely Oscar-winning movie that happened in my life. It just began within a week after that, and it went on for a few months where all this paranormal stuff was happening, and metaphysical, spiritual stuff, and angels and psychics and trancing and guides, and oh my gosh, and Joseph from Canaan, and he's the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat Joseph coming to me, and everybody telling me I'm going to be a spiritual teacher. I'm not going to be a performer anymore. And it was freaking me out, my wife out. But thank goodness she had been with me since I was 17 years old. So she knew something was going on here, because I was all of a sudden downloading and speaking this profound information about life and the meaning and the God source and everybody else and the earth and how everything was created and yada, yada, yada. And my head wanted to explode, but thank goodness we were directed in the right places to meet the right people. I did a tremendous amount of studying from that point on. Education material was the first stuff I was directed to. And then as years went on, and then I started to become a part-time psychic. I didn't want to be a psychic. Those are loony people from California. You know what I mean? It's just like, they're all my friends there now. But that's all I thought of back then, that's what a psychic was. What, I got to stick a palm outside on the highway that says Brother Vinny, next to Sister Sarah? Actually, you could have called me Cousin Vinny. My Cousin Vinny's psychic reading. That would have gone over real well. So I was just against all of that, but it just kept moving along and moving along. And as I was studying and researching, this is where everything started really coming together. And I was guided to go back to school and become a psychotherapist. So I got my BA in psychology and my master's in clinical social work. So we did a lot of research there while we were learning and getting my degree. And I was psychic at the same time, seeing clients right away, because that's what happens when you go to school to be a counselor. And all this information was coming to me about people and I not being able to create the lives they want. If you just take it on a psychological level, they were getting in their own ways, and you can almost see why. But now if you take it a step higher on a spiritual level, and I was learning that the law of attraction, we're able to manifest. And people, the majority of people were not manifesting. Some were, and they were manifesting real well. Others were manifesting partially. But Teresa, what was happening to me is why? Why can't everybody manifest? So then I started to be a full-time psychotherapist internationally and psychic therapist. So yes, I'm both psychic and psycho. So just remember that. And I had all these clients and they were experiencing the same thing. And I began to realize, put things together, used all of my research and studies to understand that there is a deeper level of something that the brain is doing that is getting in the way, these anomalies that even though the brain is trying to help each individual cope and survive, because what are the two highest functions of the human brain? One, to keep us alive, two, to protect us in order to keep us alive. So in its doing its job, metaphysically and spiritually, it was getting in our way. And that's why I came out with this book, not that book. This book, The Secret That's Holding You Back. That's right. Oh, look at all the pages you've got.
Okay, I was going to tell you, Vincent. Okay, so I read this in the library. So do you see my library?
Oh my gosh.
I've got Post-it notes. I've got some toilet paper. So I read it in the library and I've been reading it. It's a brilliant book. Love it.
Thank you so much. And it's so exciting because it's affecting people's lives exactly the way I want. That people are doing so much work. Look, let's face it, between a show like yours and so many other luminary shows that are putting wonderful messages out there, right? There's a ton of books out there, lectures out there, affirmation decks, and spiritual centers now, new thought centers people are going to truly understand who they are now as magnificent divine beings. And after trying to put all of that together, they still end up saying, God, it's not working. And that actually was the original title of my book, but my editor helped me change it around to The Secret That's Holding You Back for specific reasons. And I found it interesting that people don't truly understand their own human minds. First of all, only 2 to 5% of your entire mind is in conscious awareness. 2%.
Amazing.
That is nuts. I don't know who developed that. The first people that developed this human body, and it wasn't the God source. We developed the body. God developed and created the souls and the energy, right? So I have to know, why would you give us so little awareness?
Right.
95 to 98% of the rest of your mind is in unawareness. So when people are walking around on the planet saying, oh, I know myself, and then I go in as a psychic and I see what's really in there, and I tell them, no, I know me better than you know me. No, you don't. You have no idea what's going on in that 95% of your mind. And that's what's happening. I keep going on this side of me. I'm hitchhiking. That's
both ways.
Exactly, both ways. I'm a New Yorker, so that's what I'm so hate.
All good.
Right. And so it was so important for me to let people and teach people that they don't believe what they think they believe, which is why all this wonderful information is not getting through. They want it to get through. It's only going to a certain level. And in my book, I call that level the adult-made mind, which is protecting you and shielding you from what you're really believing about yourself. So why does that matter? Okay, first of all, we're an accumulation, Teresa, of our entire lifetime. I love the memes and the graphics and all the people and the psychologists and even luminaries that are telling you, don't keep looking back. Don't pay attention to your past. Forget your past, forget your story, create a new one, new thought, right? And move forward, move forward. Well, first of all, if you keep looking forward only, what are you looking at? You're looking at where you're not. Okay, just you're looking at where you still have to go. So yes, the here and now and mindfulness makes you pay attention to the here and now. However, if you don't turn around every so often and look where you came from, you will never know how far you've come. Rather than paying attention to how much further you have to go, you really do have to appreciate how far you've come. And for most people, unless you're an ardent criminal and a juvenile, or you have some mental pathology, and yes, I know there's a lot of people out there that, oh my God, they seem like Neanderthals, the way they're acting, and maybe emotionally they did not come far, but still we've come further than our stories that began us in the beginning of our youth, right? But you have to look back and you have to use and understand that whether you look back or not, you're still taking with you all those beliefs from your original, from your youth. The little person is inside of you with that first set of maladaptive beliefs that you picked up from your environment, the way you were treated, attended to, or not attended to, right? And even the socioeconomic background that you grew up in, that's all inside of you. And those beliefs are what's connected to the law of attraction and manifesting. And people don't understand that. And they say, but I've done the work. I've done so much work on myself. Yes, you have. And I've got to find the true author of this statement. I thought it was Teddy Roosevelt, but it's so perfect because he said, I believe, when you think you've done all that you can do, you haven't. There's always more. There is always more you can do. And that's okay too, because we're meant to appreciate ourselves, right? I mean, you see that all the time, don't you? In people that they're trying and they still can't get things done and they don't know why. And maybe they want to blame the material or the teacher who's teaching the material. I mean, you've got that under your belt there, right?
Definitely.
It really is and it's a crazy time now too. Because of all the negativity that's going on out there, and those two elements of the brain keep us alive, protect us. That protective portion wants to create new beliefs for us, right? It wants to now say, oh, well, no wonder why your life is messed up. Look at what's going on in the world. Look at what that person is doing. Look at what the government is doing. Look at what's happening with the economy. Look at what's happening with finances. Look at what's happening with the health. It's always a blame. And so as long as we stay in that mode, we can't take control of our lives. We can't. I have in my book, I've broken it down so well as far as even different areas of your life. And I start with stories of some of my different clients that I've given readings to. So there was a story about a relationship issue. There's a story about a vocation, career issue, financial issue, and health issue. Those are major stories that I have in there to make major points about what people are believing about themselves truly that's getting in the way. So for example, relationships, Teresa, okay. We know today, and I don't even know what the statistic is, maybe even you know better than me. Years ago, when I was studying it, 56% of all marriages ended in divorce. That 56.
I think it's a lot higher now, Vincent.
Yeah,
it's got to be. Yeah,
it's got to be, and not just, and those are the reported cases, right? Any relationship, there are so many people today that aren't even bothering getting married. And why? Because they figure, well, if we're going to wind up getting a divorce, this is going to be the easiest way. And what a horrible way to get together in a relationship and commit with a back door. I get to run out the back door real fast if you screw up, okay?
Right.
All right. So that's with relationships. But meanwhile, that is a primary issue today, relationships, and I'll tell you why. But I have all my clients that I'm dealing with relationship issues that I've got to break through their defenses, because the bottom line belief that they are holding is I'm not lovable. And that they determine from the messages they receive. You know, we're egocentric when we're kids. We come into the world with an undeveloped mind, and we don't have the wherewithal to be sitting there and going, okay, mommy and daddy are having an argument, but that's because mommy and daddy have issues and it really has nothing to do with me. Or daddy's at work all the time and he's got to be paying the bills. So I understand why he's not here and I can't go to my baseball game and can't come to my school play. I understand that. No, that's not what happens. Children translate whether they're lovable by the attention they receive, by the attention that they receive, and good or bad. Everybody thinks it's the words and they get to understand. Children are concrete. The human mind is very concrete all the way up until you're about 22, 23 years old. We used to think it was 17, 18, but no, they're pretty concrete into young adulthood too. Whatever they see is what they believe. That's it. And so when you turn around and you tell them, oh, I love you, those are ambiguous words. What the heck does that mean? They can only know what it means by what you follow up with those words. Are you attending to them positively? Is daddy at work all the time and not coming home? And when he does come home, he's too tired to talk with you and you've got to do your homework and get to bed, or you might see him on weekends. Or mommy and daddy are arguing all the time. How do you know it's not about you? We're egocentric. We think everything is about us back then. And so we're taking all of those beliefs on. It's about me. I'm not lovable. I'm not lovable. It's got to be me. The brain must solve conflict. And when we come in from the other side, we first come in with a feeling of love, because that's what all there is on the other side. And we're very familiar with that. And that's why a little toddler with his melting ice cream cone wants to go share it with a complete stranger until mommy and daddy pulls them back and says, no, don't talk to strangers, right? But up until then, they are automatically loving and caring, and they're not afraid of anything. We got to instill the fears, okay? So as soon as they start receiving those messages and you've got negative messages and you're getting reprimanded, my wife and I were out at a fair, kind of a street fair in the town that we were in. And there was a mother there and a toddler. The toddler could not have been any older than 2.5 years old. And she was wanting, there was all these cute little things around and everything. And she kept reaching for everything. You know, parents, is it the toddler's fault that they want to touch these pretty little things? Or is it your fault for bringing the toddler to a place like that and then letting go of the toddler's hand and not restraining the toddler in another way or redirecting it? And so when the toddler wants to go and touch something, you're going to punish the toddler because that's the way you teach him or her. And that's exactly what she did. She grabbed this little girl, and it was a foreigner. So she started yelling and berating this little girl in a foreign language. And I'm like, oh my God, I wanted to give the shove in the little girl's pocket my business card because she was going to need me as soon as she became a young adult and left home. And that's how you begin to develop, I'm bad, I'm not good enough. Okay, why does that matter? Well, now you're an adult, you know, and you want a partner. You think you're hot, you're good looking. Or even if you don't think you're good looking, you want a partner because those hormones are starting to rage and you're being pushed and evolutionarily your human side wants to procreate and come together as couples, and spiritually we know we're meant to be together. So you get that urge, I want to date just like everybody else, right? And then all of a sudden you start dating, and maybe it starts off good, and after the novelty of dating wears off, and the courtship phase, we call it, when that wears off, all of a sudden we start seeing the other side of people, and it's like, well, this relationship sucks. Well, he's a jerk or she's a jerk, and forget it, and it breaks apart, right? But then that consistently happens over and over again. And then maybe you do have a relationship where you think you're in love, you get married, and it breaks apart in a couple of years, 10 years, 20 years. And then you're wondering, why? Why do I always attract the wrong person? Well, I keep choosing the wrong people, or better yet, in some of the cities that I deal with people, it's the place. There's no good men here. There's no good women here. And I'm like, there's 8 billion people on the face of the earth, and you're telling me you found a place where there's not enough people? Tell me where that place is. A lot of people want to know where to go to get away from everybody, okay? And it's impossible. Unless you're up in the Andes in the mountains, up in the, one of those Tibetan temples, and there's nobody up there. It's ridiculous. And I have to bring to them and help them understand, and they finally do, that little kid inside that has been berated, that has been not attended to, does not believe he or she is lovable, and that's why you're not attracting the right love. But your defense mechanism doesn't show that. It hides that. And Teresa, that is the biggest problem today, is what we truly believe is really hidden. And if you don't believe me, just look at the United States. Look at how the people are acting. Okay. And I'm not talking about the protesters. I mean, talking about the real protesters, the ones that are hurting and lashing out, and the ones that are picking up guns and shooting people. What do you think is going on in their minds? Even the ones that are not mentally off, because there's a mental pathology. If you can pick up a gun and you can go in and shoot everybody and then shoot yourself. That is definitely a psychopath that has some major things going on. But the average person that's lashing out and feeling angry and is racist or judgmental or whatever, whatever they are, bigoted in any way, and all of that is a defense. What are they looking like? The way they act, they look like a bunch of little kids having temper tantrums, because they are, because that little child does not believe you care about them or love them, and they really look like it's sibling rivalry.
And they want attention.
They want attention. Nobody's attending to them.
Right.
All children need attention, because what did I say? Attention equals to children. I'm lovable. We got to remember that. So all this protection that people are acting, all of that, it's because of the defense mechanisms that are shielding what they're really feeling about themselves. That's why this book is so important, because it's core work. It's core work. Do you exercise at all, Teresa? You look like
almost every day. Yeah.
You do. Good for you. Okay. All right. So for anybody else, we know it's good to exercise. And some people go to gyms to exercise at home, do aerobics. A lot of guys and women now like to do some muscle building, right? I go to the gym, I work on my muscle parts, right? My upper body on, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then my legs on Monday, Thursday, Friday, or whenever I feel like doing legs. Right? But what do all the exercisologists and experts and the trainers always say you always need to work on while you're working on all other parts of your body, including aerobics? What's the one area? Oh,
abs? Is it abs?
And what
the core?
Yes, the core. That's right. Now, here's what's crazy about the human body. The one part that holds together the giant muscles up here and the giant muscles down there are the smallest muscles ever. Okay. It's like no wonder why people have such bad backs, because those muscles are so small and we don't work on the core. But yes, you work on the core to pull everything else and everything that you're working on together. My book and this work is the core of bringing everything together. Without working on the core, it doesn't matter whatever else you're doing. It's not getting through to the smallest muscles, the most important ones, the self-belief ones, the I'm lovable, I'm magnificent, I'm divine. It's not getting there. And that's why nothing else is going to work. And it's not enough to say all these beautiful affirmations. Did you mark off the whiteboard example in my book? Do you remember the whiteboard example that I gave?
Oh, I don't know. You have to
quiz now, Teresa.
no. I mean, I read it off and on, so no, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I know I read it, but I don't remember,
things,
Vincent.
anyway, you wouldn't remember it anyway. There's so many things that you've got pasted in there that you're reading. It's wonderful.
Like 20 or 30. I was like, oh my God, this is good. And this is good.
I just want to give this example so that people understand. Okay. Let's say your mind is like a whiteboard. And I want everybody, even your listeners right now, to be imagining that on that whiteboard is written every negative self-belief they have, or even self-behavior, whatever behavior that's negative, all their fears, all their doubts, right on that whiteboard. Okay. By the time they're done with the exercise, that whiteboard should be filled up with, it looks solid black. Okay. All right. Now, the new thought movement and all this new spiritual information and all your new luminaries and authors are all saying that the affirmations, you need no new thoughts, new affirmations, okay? And so all these wonderful thoughts. So now take the wonderful thoughts and, like little pictures, paste them on top of the whiteboard. You've got little bunny pictures. You're fuzzy, wonderful, warm, everything like that. You know, I'm okay, you're okay. It's your neighbor that sucks. It's all these beautiful, beautiful affirmations. You know, we've got such a beautiful morning, and you are part of that beauty. And you know, you can create all that you want. So paste them. All right. So now your whiteboard is completely covered and filled with all the work that you have ever done, all those lectures, all the times that you picked up the affirmation card, all the gratitude journals that you wrote, you got that on there too. Have you gotten rid of any of your negative beliefs and feelings?
I don't think so. I think they're underneath.
Bingo, you win. You get the prize. Absolutely. Yes. No, you haven't, because you just covered them up. And that's what's happening. You're not replacing them. You're not dealing with them. And you cannot feel what you don't see and feel. You cannot feel what you don't feel. And you've got to get down to the core. Just feeding yourself all of these wonderful thoughts and affirmations is not going to do it. And also, because there is a fallacy in the teaching of the law of attraction.
Which
is that thoughts create and manifest. Thoughts don't create and manifest. Beliefs do. Beliefs do. Because people can think that they deserve 1,000,001 things, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
You know, a legitimately intelligent human, if you go up to them and you say, do you believe that you're capable of having a decent job and career? Well, yes, they might say, well, I didn't go to school, or, you know, and you'll have your outlier again and say, no, I'm not smart enough. But that's not the average person. The average person will say, yes, of course. Do you believe that you deserve a wonderful relationship and good love? And yes, of course. What about your health? Oh, yeah, I absolutely believe that I should be healthy and could be healthy. I believe that. That's wonderful. How come it's not happening? So thoughts don't create. We have all of those. And it shouldn't. That's not what the law of attraction is connected to. Can you imagine today if we were connected in our conscious minds to the law of attraction, what would be going on in the world today? That would mean as soon as you had a thought, something would happen. And let me tell you something, with some of the phrases that come out of New York, I don't even want to imagine some of those things that can happen, if you know what I mean, just from having the thought or saying it out loud. Right? Woo!
Yeah.
Vision, my eyes, I need to
Burning, blowing up, explosions, nuclear.
can't be there. The law of attraction has to be connected in your unconscious mind. But in your unconscious mind are all those maladaptive beliefs. I call them the I'm not. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not deserving enough. I'm not beautiful enough, whatever. I'm not lovable enough. Those are, and in my book, I talk about how the minds are separated and that all of those maladaptive beliefs are contained in another area of the mind I call the environment made mind. And I call it that because as a child, you just absorb. You're not responsible truly for what you wind up creating as a belief yourself. You don't do that until later on. And then that's when the adult made mind winds up forming to create a new set of beliefs to shield you and protect you from those old ones. That's why this work is so important. And I don't want to take away the work that people have done. And yes, it's hard. And you got to go back to it again. Yes, you've got to do some more work because you know why? Because you're worth it. You deserve it. You are a magnificent divine being and you're here to experience your magnificence. And yes, could we have gotten caught up with we forgot that? Most people have forgotten that. Most people don't recognize how divine they are. But when you do this work and you start manifesting and your life starts to change because you're taking self-love healing steps, I can't even begin to express how euphoric it feels to achieve that, not just to achieve a dream. When somebody writes me back from doing this work, I've been getting emails upon emails and some of the most wonderful reviews on like Amazon. And they tell me that they just started the work. And all of a sudden, the next day they got a phone call, that job that they had applied for months ago that they thought that they never got and it was their dream job, that the person called them and said, absolutely, you got the job now, all because they worked on truly believing they deserved that job. I deserve that job. I'm good enough for that job. And the next day, they get a phone call, and then they get an increase in salary as well, from what they're working at now. That's what one person said. And then it's on and on, these magnificent stories, even from people who have been able to develop and create beautiful lives, but are missing one thing, like a relationship or love, and have aha moments and never realized what was getting in the way until they read my book. And these are intellectual people that have lived along 70 years and have done incredible work and made such incredible friends and impact, but never had unconditional love. And then finally understands it. So when you experience things like that, man, there's nothing like it, Teresa. It really, it's what keeps you going, and it's what helps to heal the world because you bring that out onto others.
So in the work you did with when you became psychic and you started opening up and you started seeing clientele, when was it that you decided that you kind of found this? Or was it just like, you started recognizing like a pattern in people, or how you help people was a pattern?
And I was doing lectures, well, based on this. I have a God It's Not Working lecture. Like I said, that was the original title. I have a God It's Not Working lecture that I've been doing for the past 12 years now, almost 15 years. And off of that, I have Stop Stopping Yourself and Become Unstoppable from the God It's Not Working lecture. So I have been doing this work, and all I kept hearing, now, look, this is the other thing I need listeners to understand. I've been doing this work now for almost 40 years, okay?
You're giving away your age, Vincent, because now you're 42, right?
Right, I started at 2 years old. Thank you. For a reason, okay? And And I had to do the work, and I'm still doing the work, and I'm obstinate. And depending upon your personality, that can get in the way of your growth as well. And they kept telling me, I kept hearing the messages. I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm talking to guides, I talk to animals, I talk to dead people, and I even talk with extraterrestrials now, okay? They communicate with me. All right, I know it sounds nuts. It's okay. My children, they're going to have an intervention soon from me. But I was being told, you got to write this book. You got to put this information into a book, not just a lecture. You got to get it out there. And I was like, who's going to read my book? I'm like, I was my own example in the book, right? Stopping myself because there was a little me, because I came from a tormented past, okay? Until I was 17 years old. I was bullied in school every single day. I was chased home. If they caught me, they beat me up. In school, they shoved me in lockers, head flushed in toilets, thrown in dumpsters, deep pantsed and stripped and thrown into assemblies to be humiliated, peed on, spit on. When I got home, mom and dad, it didn't make it any safer over there because mom was sexually molested by her brother until she was 13 years old. So she had borderline personality disorder, major depressive disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, panic disorder, and she took it out on my brother and I, and we used to get beat, and I used to get beat all the time. Not to mention, I was sexually molested by my babysitter until I was 13 years old and by the priest. So, yes, did I do the work? Have I grown and have I evolved and have I hit dreams that I wanted? Yes, by doing the work. That's why I know that book works so well. That's what I have in it. The work I did that I saw successfully working and working for others the exact same way. But I have to tell you, little Vinny still wants to pop his head out and tell me, well, you're not good enough, and wants to get in my way. That's what I write in this book, that you don't get rid of it completely, which is why it's so important to constantly do the work. It's maybe a dangling carrot in front of us. Maybe, Teresa, we set it up that way purposely to constantly be motivated to do something to grow and evolve. I don't know. But as long as you got a handle on it, I hear when little Vinny's speaking. I know who it is because I've done the work. And so as soon as he starts getting negative and doubtful, Big Vince can turn around and reparent him and reinforce. I have this all these exercises in my book, and catch him and tell him, no, that's not true, honey. You have succeeded. You've done so much. Look at how far you've come. Look at the lives that you've touched, right? So in doing that, that makes sure and makes certain that the law of attraction that I'm connected to doesn't get influenced by his voice, because he was the one who was stopping me from a lot of things. And I didn't know that. I thought I wasn't meant to get ahead. I thought that I wasn't good enough. And when I finally realized, wait, those inner beliefs, those deep down beliefs that little Vinny is believing, that's what's influencing my creating. It's not my conscious thoughts. You know, everybody was telling me how successful I'm going to be. And yes, you've got a presence, you're wonderful, you're this, you're that. Even as I was a performer, that happened, right? And so I was getting all of this, but not getting to where I wanted to go. And it was all because of what was hidden. I made it unhidden. I removed my defense mechanisms. I disempowered them so that they're not hidden. I want to know what I'm believing about myself. Does it hurt to know that I'm still believing I'm not good enough? Yeah, it does. But I understand why I would believe that with all the torment that I went through. And people have gone through, Teresa, some of the most incredible stories worse than mine. And even if they weren't as, intense as mine, maybe they were less, it doesn't matter. Each person's story hurts. And they don't want to face it. They don't want to keep. That's why they're being told, well, move on, move on, move on. But their stories are right there. Even though they're way below the level and deep recessed in their minds, they're still influenced by them, because that's why they don't have unconditional lover. That's why they don't have the job that fulfills their lives. That's why they're sick. That's why they have finances that they have to always struggle and worry about. That's why everything else that they see in their lives that they don't want, they are manifesting, because they don't believe they're good enough, they're lovable enough. And that's the work they have to do.
And I believe you. I mean, like, until the day I die, I'm working on myself, working on, that's what I'm here to do to the last breath.
And why not? What else would we be doing? Let me tell you something. I have a conversation with source, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. Some of my guides that I started with, Archangel Michael, I like. I also talk with Jesus all the time. He's been a buddy of mine. And little Vincent, all day long. And if I'm not talking with them, my mind is taking over by itself. That 95% is taking over by itself, telling me all this other garbage and crap. And so I would rather be in control of what's going on in those thoughts. So I have that daily conversation. I'm constantly reminding little Vincent how wonderful he is. And I'm constantly asking, okay, is this the best thing for me to do? I open those doors. And I've done the work too, and I get my answers when I really need them, and I want something strong. I get even strong answers outside of me, as if I just get my iPhone rings and it's God or one of the angels. Oh, wait, okay, yes, really? Oh, wow, that's great. I wasn't expecting a call, but thanks. It's that profound. I joke about it, but I'm serious about it. And it's the work, and it's by doing this work. And I know in the work that you've been doing that the same thing comes to you. You said it earlier. We'll let the energy will take us where we're meant to go. You wouldn't be feeling that or knowing that if you didn't do that work and open up to it and experience it, right?
Exactly. Definitely. 100%. And let's talk, Vincent, a little bit about free will.
Oh,
let's open that little one.
We don't have to pay for it anymore?
Well, some may, but
well, yeah. There's all of this nonsense and stuff and beliefs out there, all different kinds of beliefs about the free will stuff. All right. Why does you'll get, especially these semi-religious people, they think that they're religious, but they immediately go and blame God for everything. If there really was a God, why would this omnipotent power and loving power allow anything to happen on the face of the earth that's happening today? Get that question. That's a primary question for anybody who doubts a God, and even the so-called atheists, right? And I don't believe in atheists, by the way. Any of those doubters and an atheist are just people who don't believe the definition that humans are giving about what God is today. That's all. They're talking about, I don't believe in your definition and description of God. That doesn't mean they're not believing in God, because I know some really good God-loving beings that don't even know that they're believing and loving God.
Yeah.
But they act as if, because you can know and not know that you know. Our job is to eventually know what we know, okay? That's the bottom line. But free will, the reason why all of this happens is because of our free will, because we have the freedom. Here we are, we're in the United States, and the key word for the United States is freedom. Seems to be freedom. All of a sudden, that's also been changed to patriotism now. No, the key word here is freedom. But what are you free to do? You're free to pursue life, liberty, and whatever you'd like to, as long as it doesn't interfere in someone else's life. They seem to forget that part. But you have the freedom to make choice of what you want to believe, what you want to practice. Again, as long as it doesn't harm another person or truly harm yourself. So free will is where that understanding comes from. We knew when we were held captive in dictatorship countries that was wrong. And anybody who's living in a dictatorship country, even to today, they don't necessarily leave it, not because they believe that this ruler should be completely controlling their lives, but because they're afraid. They don't know where else to go. They don't think they have the means or the capacity to be able to do it. So that's actually how a dictatorship rules, is by fear. It's only by fear. It's not by intellect. It's by fear. So but we have the free will to create any of that. And if source, if spirits, if the angels just came and appeared and gave us proof and cleared everything up, it would take all our free will away. Even faith, the word faith and free will go hand in hand. Okay? Because you are given the free will to either believe, have faith, or not have faith, even in that. I'm not going to prove. You see, the funny thing is that when we had some spiritual leaders here, we had some strong ones. Obviously, one in particular that changed the entire course of religion on the planet, and that was Jesus, right? It comes down. He does a bunch of miracles, right? And so even then, see, he knew that, look, it doesn't matter if I do some miracles, if I turn water into wine, because they have free will. It'll be their choice as to whether they want to believe it or not. Now, I'll tell them why. I told them, actually, Jesus came down here to teach us who we were, not who he was. And so anything that he did that we considered a miracle, he always said, well, you can do this too. This isn't a miracle, for goodness sakes. It's like you have dominion over everything physical. So you want to take this water and you want to turn it into wine, go right ahead. You could do that, but you're going to have some faith to do that. And what did he say to the people who we healed that came to him for healing? Your faith, your belief is what did that. Not me, your free will to believe that you could be healed is what healed you. So even in his miracles, he didn't take away the Romans. He didn't just go snap his finger, and do all of that. Now, the other side of the coin is they can't. The God source already gave everything it could to us. Everything. And it can't intercede. Besides free will, it just can't intercede. I can't. It's I'm you now. If you don't do it yourself, I can't get it done for you. Oh, I can remind you, you can pray to me. And what do you think the prayers are going to do? You're thinking that I'm answering your prayer, and you don't even know that your prayer is focusing your energy and belief, and that's what's working, not an angel or me doing something. It's you doing something, but you got the free will to be able to believe that too, if you want. Was it a gift or was it a curse? Well, if we did not have free will, and everything, we knew what everything was, what would be the sense of life? We'd be all automatons. Choice is about everything. That's what we're here for. You're here to make choices. And in your making choices determines how evolved you are or aren't, how much you truly know who you are and not know who you are by your choices. Everything is about your choices.
Yeah.
That's what free will was always meant to be. It's about choice.
I'm in for it.
Right? It's about making the higher choices, lower choices, any choice. You want to make a crappy choice, make a crappy choice. It's okay. You're going to be, there's a rule of cause and effect,
And you're going to learn from it.
Well, you could learn from it.
Yes.
Remember, this is the other thing. I have, it's funny that you bring that up, because I just had this discussion with people, the concept of suffering. Okay, the concept of suffering. The concept of when you throw lemons at us, we're going to make lemonade. That growth comes from suffering. No, it doesn't. Growth does not come from suffering. Growth comes from our choices of what to do when we've suffered. People,
well said.
And it's even incorporated into religion that in order to gain great growth, you're going to need to suffer. Oh, baloney. I am sick of suffering. And his point. The greatest suffering is going on the earth today. How many people are growing from it? How come we're not growing? We've got more suffering now between a pandemic, between all the cancers we have out here, between the storms wiping out people, between people picking up guns and shooting everybody all over the place. There's plenty of suffering. So where's the growth? Where's the growth? There is none. It's none, because suffering perpetuates suffering, because the human spirit is being crushed. And it's the human spirit that turns lemons into lemonade. And guess what? If you drink enough lemonade, you will poke and poke and get completely dehydrated because of how sour. Friggin', I don't want any more lemonade. I'd like some iced tea. Right?
Right.
So why do we need the suffering anymore? So growth doesn't come from that. Growth comes because I know a lot of people who are suffering, who are going in the, those suffering people are the ones who are killing others.
Right.
Those suffering people are the ones. So suffering does not guarantee growth at all. But when you are suffering, you're faced with yourself at your lowest level. And you're faced with choices.
Yep.
Do I choose? Do I let my adult-made mind, like I have in my book, do I let my defense mechanisms, another one, kick in? Do I believe that I need to protect myself because I'm suffering and you're causing my suffering? So maybe if you're out of here, maybe if we get rid of Black people, we won't suffer anymore. Oh, better yet, let's get rid of all the LGBTQ pluses because they're causing us to be condemned. Let's get rid of them. Oh, and then the Muslims, let's get rid of the Muslims too, because they're causing my suffering. So that's a choice from a person who suffered. Or, okay, maybe I've hurt, I've lost a lot, but I'd like to believe that there's more. I'd like to have hope that there's more for my life, which is why some people even reach out and call me for readings. Something told me to call you, and they tell me where they are. Oh my God, Teresa, in the work that I do, some of the stories that I hear, I wish I could share all of them with everybody, because if people could just understand what other people are going through, you know, they may be thinking they're the only ones suffering in the world and that everybody else lives a, you know, silver lining life. And that's completely not true. Holy cow, they're suffering. And then they're taking the step to say, I want to make a change. That's what free will is all about.
Well said, sir. Well said.
Does not guarantee growth at all.
Yeah. So it all comes back to the secret that's holding you back. And Vincent has written The Secret. It's in the book, shares beautifully about it. And so there's one other thing I want to end with before we, well, one more other thing I want to talk about before we end. I want to ask about how it was being a backup dancer on Grease. Oh my God.
Okay.
What
Oh
the
my
hell,
God.
Vincent?
Yes, I know. And here's the funny thing about that story is I wasn't, and I write it in the book, I wasn't meant to be in the movie, but because I was an arrogant young actor, Italian guy from New York, I begged literally the choreographer to let me come down on the set and stay in the background because I was actually chosen as an alternate main dancer. There were 10 men, 10 girls as the main dancers that did all of the scenes with the stars. All the musical numbers were done by those major dancers, then background people filled in, right? And so she agreed, and I went on the set, and just briefly, Lorenzo Lamas, who played the jock, wasn't there. So I had a chance to fill in because I was right there, but without pay. Nothing. It was all voluntarily done. So I was helping them out. So yes, I had a chance to fill in. And then he came back and I wasn't needed anymore. And I was sitting in the corner. And then the producer came in one day to watch the rehearsal, you know, Alan Carr, you know, in his lavish way of doing things. He actually came in, he was pushed in on a cart with all this flamboyant stuff on him. He's so funny.
No, he wasn't.
As he was, yeah.
Oh my God.
Very, very flamboyant.
Yeah.
So he wound up calling me over and I was like, oh boy. And he told me, he said, I heard what you've been doing and that you've been working on the set here and you've been filling in. And I thought he was about ready to tell me that you can't stay here, and he was going to make me leave. And instead he said, I want to put you in the movie for that. He said, and I'm going to even give you a contract as a featured dancer. He gave me one of those featured dancer contracts. Now, he couldn't give me, he couldn't put my name in the credits because they already paid for that. And it cost him a lot of money, apparently, to do that. That was already done. So my name is not in the credits, but of course you do see me. And then they gave me for the gym scene. I was throughout the entire movie. So even though I was background, I was paid as a feature. I still receive major royalty checks since 1978. All right.
Wow.
The Grease is shown a minimum of 4 times every month all over the world.
Wow.
No matter where you are, you can go through all your channels, especially if you have cable TV, and you will find Grease being played sometimes, somewhere on some channel. It doesn't make a difference. It is crazy. I get checks. It must have been like playing like crazy this past quarter, because I just got a large check, and my wife and I were like, are you kidding me? Wow. And so that's what they did for me. So I was able to be in the whole movie. It was fantastic. They even got John Travolta's younger sister, Annie Travolta, to be my partner in the gym scene. Ellen Travolta was the oldest sister who was she was a waitress in the diner, right? Scenes. And so, yeah, but I was in the whole movie, but the major part that you see me in is in the dance contest. And I'm dead center. So I'm in every poster that there is out there.
I'm going to check it out. I'm going to look, Vincent.
Oh, you got to look at it.
Oh, I'm looking.
I'm wearing, I have saddle shoes on, and I'm the only one with saddle shoes in the center. I've got a goldish, beigeish suit with a green shirt. And a goldish tie. I got to constantly remember it. And my hair is slicked back on the sides with a real curly pomp in the front. And just look at me now and imagine me 44 years younger, like I look like my son. Okay.
Well, I'm going to check it out in a big way.
It was amazing. It was
I bet.
Because then I did the premiere at Metaphysical Theater in Hollywood, and a few of us were hired to be dancers in their television special, but also to be the hosts of all the stars that came. I walked Elizabeth Taylor and then Richard Burton down the aisle to their seats. A whole bunch of other stars that were still alive. To their seats, and then I partied with them. I danced with them. It was amazing. Then I was on the TV special at the same time with Andy Gibb. The Gibb brothers were there, and Andy Gibb I worked with. And so it was just an amazing, amazing experience.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Vincent. I had to ask. We're talking spiritual stuff. We're talking about the secret that's holding you back, but I had to ask about Grease.
But everybody needs to know that at one point in your life, before you leave this planet, I hope you can put the pieces of the puzzle of your life together, because when you do, everything is so amazing. Because if it wasn't for that movie, I would not have gained the friends that I did from all the tormentors when went to my 10-year high school reunion, which would have kept me from getting these spiritual abilities, because there would have been no reason for me to ask for them. And so Grease helped that. Something as small as just a job that I did in what happened to be one of the most famous movies of all time. That was a good choice. The universe put me in something really good for that. So your pieces, you just get, it's miraculous to see how everything gets to fit together, even the hurting and the suffering,
Beautiful way to end. Beautiful, Vincent. And I will have all the links to how to purchase your beautiful book, how to get in touch with you on your website, social media. I'll have all of that in the show notes. And it has been so wonderful with you today. And you're so enthusiastic, Vincent. So you're matching my enthusiastically spiritual. And thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh, Teresa, you're such a light. It's just like everybody is going to be blinded out there between my Italian talk and hands and over the top personality and your light. My gosh, they should be blinded. It'll reach everywhere.
Blinded by the lights.
That's right.
Thank you, Vincent.